Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Well, hello, and welcome back to the Healthy Living Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Grumbine, and today we have back in the studio with us Dr. Robert Hoffman. Robert, welcome back.
Thank you, Joe. Always glad to be here.
Oh, it's a treat. So I discovered over this last week that actually yesterday I discovered that we share the same birthday.
Unbelievable.
And it's kind of
It closed the whole country down for you and me.
I know, I'm telling you, over freedom, right?
Yeah,
I
couldn't be better.
I like that. When they made that a national holiday a few years back, I thought, well, that's pretty appropriate. I've been a champion for freedom all my life. So
Yeah, me too.
excellent. So I discovered yesterday that you turned 84 years old. And
81, Joe, 81.
81. Well, even still.
I'm just a kid, 81.
All right. Well, I wouldn't have pegged you a day past 60. I just am blown away by your youth and vitality, and hell, you've even got hair.
You just see the front part. You don't see this part.
I know, I got you, but well, where I'm coming from, you got a lot of hair.
Okay, who needs hair? What good does it do you?
It just gives you. You know what I discovered?
If you wear a cap.
I discovered it makes your shower take a lot longer.
It really does, you know.
I found I get in the shower and out of the shower, and I'm like, wow, I'm all done. And my wife's like, are you clean? I'm like, I didn't have to wash my hair.
Yeah. What a waste of time.
I tell you, a bar of soap goes a long way. So I'll give a little update from last time. So last time I had recently taken my third round of chemo, and I was in the middle of the 5-day pump. And I had people tell me that it gets a little more difficult as you go through it. And I had ridden through the first 2 rounds pretty quickly and easily without much side effects. And this one really kind of walloped me. It was, and I talked to a lady that I know that has dealt with cancer herself and she works in a surgical ward. And she says, well, they generally will increase the dose as they're going through. So that third round is like that's your big dose. And I don't know if it's an accumulation or if it was a larger dose, but I realized that it just really took the wind out of my sails. And
how do you feel now? How do you feel today?
I'm feeling much better today. I still get winded easier than normal. And of course, being up in the Sierras, it's up at 8,000 feet. So
it's a lot. That's a lot of feet.
Yeah, so I know that generally you get a little winded up there anyways, but normally I'm up there hiking and doing a lot, and I didn't do a whole lot of hiking. I did a lot of fishing, caught some fish, and I got to tell you, Robert, I actually had 2 little bites of trout. I had to have 2 bites because it was
absolutely. And you had to have a sample.
Yeah, and you know what? I've been such a diehard on this diet and the methioninases. I told myself on this little vacation, I was gone for 5 days. I said I'm going to bring up a double dose. So I was taking 4 doses a day.
Terrific.
I'm going to live a little. I'm going to eat a couple of things I wouldn't normally eat. And I had a hamburger, and I hadn't had a hamburger in almost 6 months. I hadn't had anything,
Hey, listen, the double dose will do it.
Yeah, and I didn't, and then actually one of the days I stayed rigid, so I didn't let myself get out of control.
You're okay. Now you're back into your routine.
I'm right back into my routine, and fruit and vegetables and a little bit of beans, and that's it, and my double dose a day, and we're right back on track.
Good deal.
And this is a thing that I wanted to kind of share with you. All the people, in fact, today I interviewed Cynthia Chin Lee.
Chin Lee.
Yeah, she's awesome. And she shares a somewhat similar story to myself and Shihiro and some of the other people that have overcome their cancer with this diet and other therapies, is that the work is work. It's a lot of effort to do what it takes to beat this cancer. And
That's right.
every once in a while, I think it's good to give yourself a rest, even if it's just a short one, to just because you think about it, like your body is doing the work, right? It's fighting the cancer. Your mind is disciplining yourself to do the things that are hard. Your spirit kind of pays the price for it all. And over time, you get weary, you just get a little tired. And I think that, like, right now, I feel restored. I could go back and fast all day long, no problem. I don't feel like the diet's hard. I don't feel anything's hard right now. And I think sometimes it's just important to just give yourself a break, not a long one, because
Once in a while. It should
once,
not be a routine 5 days on, 2 days off. That's not for methionase.
no,
That
no,
may
no,
be
no.
for, it may be okay for ivermectin, but it's not.
I
It's
don't do any of that. I don't take
taking
any
a little
days off.
break, eating a couple tunas and a burger, and washing it down with a couple doses of methionase on occasion. On
Yeah.
occasion.
Once
I don't
every
think that's going to be harmful.
It was once in 4 months for me, and I don't feel like it. I feel like I didn't lose any of the impact, but I feel
No,
like
I don't think so either.
it gave me back, just like a sense of my own freedom. Like
Yeah.
I can do what I want for a minute, and it felt really good. So I just think that people need to realize if they make the decision to live, then you have to make some choices that are not necessarily pleasant. And maybe there are choices that you got to stay focused on and do some things that you just got to put attention to. And, I think it's just important once in a while to give yourself a little bit of leeway, latitude. So
I agree with you, Joe.
good, good. I'm glad we're on the same page on this. I've been so very rigid with this, and I was talking to, Cynthia, and we're talking about all these different things. She has a different kind of cancer and different kind of therapies that she was doing, but we both came down to the notion of there are things that work, and that if you're going to decide to live, then you're going to choose these things that work, and then maybe you're going to modify and add your own other things that can help you. But this diet is going to work for everybody's cancer, and it doesn't matter what kind of cancer, what drives it, what caused it, what how far along it is. I mean, we're just talking to this guy in Japan over the weekend, and unfortunately my brain's a little cloudy. His name slips me right now, but yeah, Scott, my God, what a story. I mean, the guy was metastatic,
Great story.
and he went from being riddled with cancer, but he just drove, man. He's an inspiration. He did everything. He did all the things like I'm doing. He did more things than I'm doing.
He's got the same disease as President Biden, and
Right,
everybody says Biden is incurable.
right.
That's the paradigm. You cannot recover from prostate cancer bone metastasis, but you can.
But you can, exactly. And I think that that's, a big part of why we're having these conversations. Why I keep talking about how important that 4 o'clock p.m. Sunday meeting is so important is people are coming in and sharing their stories, and even doctors are coming in and learning. And they're once a doctor knows this, hopefully they start talking to other doctors, and we start to get,
Well, they won't get very far, I think, but I
well,
think the key point is the doctors are learning from the patients, and that's the
yeah,
way it should be.
agreed. And that was another thing that we were talking about today is navigating the medical world. Like, in some ways, well, in all ways, it's the patient's responsibility to figure their problem out. But
And it's not easy if you're up against an obstinate oncologist.
well, that's just it. Like, generally, you get luck of the draw. Like, you go into whatever your medical center is and say, "I've got this disease," or maybe you go in for blood work and they come and tell you you've got this disease. And then all of a sudden you sort of fall into this automatic system where they assign you a doctor. And I think most people, the news that you have cancer is so traumatic to most people. I think it really just knocks them back
Yeah,
into
to have to battle the cancer and the oncologist too.
right,
Too much for
exactly.
most people.
And I don't think most people even try. I don't think they even try to battle them. I think they just kind of,
No, they think, okay, I'm going to just follow the oncologist.
yeah,
And, as Dr. Exame Emil always says, you follow standard of care, you get the standard outcome, which
right.
for many cancers is terrible.
Well, that's, we were talking about
You really need the standard of care, which is in most cases necessary but not sufficient. So we
right.
got to augment it.
Yes, indeed. And the thing is like the standard of care, generally there's three basic ways they go. You got surgery, radiation, and chemo. Now they've got immunotherapy and some others. But if you look at it, the surgery, which is generally the first line that they go after, is probably the least effective in the sense of like with cancer, by the time you can see it, it's so big that it's already spreading, right? I mean, it's already breaking off tumor cells.
I think we have to make that assumption. It's probably not true every time, but I think that's the assumption. That's got to be the working assumption.
It's
And let
trying
me
at
just
least.
tell you, Joe, I was talking with Chihiro,
Yeah.
and a young lady, a daughter of a person who's contacting with Chihiro, had, I guess, some a cancer similar to yours. Looked like it originated on the tongue. They took out half the tongue,
Hmm?
took out a big chunk of the jaw. They replaced the jaw with some metal.
Oh,
Just
uh,
think of the disfiguring
oh,
surgery you would have had. And that's
oh,
what they wanted to do first.
I
Like the
know.
surgeon said, by model, I do
Yeah,
surgery and then you go to radiation, then you go to chemo. Um,
exactly.
and that's the model. And yeah, I guess in some cases there's no choice, but especially head and neck cancer,
Oh,
the
yeah.
disfigurement
There's no way to get around
those
it.
surgeries do. And imagine that this poor girl lost half her tongue.
Oh,
Um, it's awful, and with just a little common sense, try try neoadjuvant first. What do
right.
you got to lose? You
Well,
got nothing to lose.
you would think that,
A few weeks of chemo, hey, it just may work. And
right.
of course, when you're on methionine restriction, there's a better chance that it's going to work.
Exactly. I
So
think that,
we need to change the paradigm. I think you're the model for changing the paradigm. We can start with head and neck cancer. You're such a clear example of what to do and what not to do.
exactly. And, again, I listened to the first doctor and he told me I probably didn't have cancer, which is
Yeah,
how I got.
this guy's an outlier. He's an idiot. Um, I mean,
But after that, I got a
every
little more.
grandmother could have looked at you and said you got cancer. I mean, this guy, okay, he's an outlier. We don't even want to deal with it.
No,
But the standard of care here, get the disfiguring surgery first and then go from there. So it's really important. But then they'll argue, yeah, but the chemo doesn't work that good. But then we say, hey, combine it with methionine restriction. No big deal.
right. Well, and
I don't
again,
know. We
you,
knew that we should be doing this since 1959. It's mind blowing.
wouldn't you think?
We gotta really. You gotta be the poster boy, Joe.
Oh, I'm carrying the torch. You bet I am. It
Yeah.
just
Now
kind of
we gotta go to the next step and change the paradigm
right.
because, like you just said, the chances of when you have a primary tumor and it's already visible, diagnostic, it being able to be diagnosed, blah blah blah. It's almost certainly spread.
Or at
Okay,
least trying.
what are you gonna do? We're gonna go now to radiation, which is local, and not deal with the very high probability that you got cancer cells walking around your body. So we've got to find a way for you to get uh, the maintenance chemo, and we're going to find it.
We will. You know we will.
Yeah, it's not in the guidebook.
No, but you
At
know
least
what?
not for head and neck cancer.
We're gonna
And
find the answer. I know we are.
well, it could be any kind of good chemo like Chihiro takes, or it doesn't have to be. It's just something to keep the cancer down, and which is probably not a high bar when you're on methionine restriction.
well, exactly. And another
Almost any
thing,
kind of chemo, their action is very similar. They're cytotoxic. They're not really cancer drugs. They're drugs that kill cells that rapidly duplicate. So it's not almost any of those standard drugs, I think, would be good for you. And anyway, we're going to get there. And worst comes to worst, we'll go down to Tijuana to the most interesting drugstore I've ever been at.
well, that's
Everything is
right down the
either
road from you.
or you walk upstairs to the doc and tell him what you want, and you pay him $5 and he gives you a prescription.
Love it.
Talk about freedom, right? Freedom to determine your own fate. So I think, we need to get the scans.
We've got about.
We'll analyze the scans, and then we'll send everything to Dr. Castro and see what he says.
Another 10 days, I get my scan, and
Okay.
I guess one of the really good things, there are three good things came out of what this card that I was dealt was. Number one, it was visible, and so I was able to document the progress with photographs. And number two, it was virus driven rather than drugs and alcohol driven. So the survivability rate was almost double what it would have been. And then number three, the fact that it was virus driven made there be a blood marker that I can test for, and I can know for sure if that virus is in my system, then there's a likelihood that it's making some cancer cells. If there's no virus in my system, then it's probably not. I mean, it gives me at least a pretty strong marker. The only problem is, cancer can change, it can mutate, and it can turn into something else.
So in order to mutate, it needs a lot of divisions. So if we keep it down, we keep either not dividing or very slowly dividing, it's not going to change that much, I think.
I think you're right. And that's where I feel like I have some control over the situation. So, I've made the decision that for the rest of my life, I'm not going to give it anything to grow on. So I'm going to continue this diet. I'm going to continue keeping this enzyme with me. If I'm, going to break through a little bit, I'll always have it as a backup, but my diet's going to be rigid, and, I can continue my oxygen therapies, my exercise, all the other, I'll probably off and on with the ivermectin. I don't know that I'm going to keep on that all the time. I don't think I need to, but sporadically we'll go into a few cycles.
I keep on it as much as you can tolerate.
Oh, okay. Well, it doesn't bother me. I take it without any problem. So
I think it's very, very promising.
And then I still I learned from Dr. Castro, because of this diet, it's very low in protein, and protein's where you get a lot of your zinc from. So I'm now zinc deficient by just the nature of my diet. So I take a zinc supplement. No big deal.
Go.
Just part of my.
There you go. And if you really, your blood comes back too low in protein, start on some Hominex.
I take it. No, I take the Hominex regularly.
There you go. Then you're going to be okay.
I take it because I exercise a lot, and I don't want to. I'm trying to build a little muscle mass, and without taking protein, it's pretty hard. So I take that stuff.
With the Hominex, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, and I tolerate it fine. It doesn't bother me. I put it in my coffee in the morning and just drink it, and I get in all the aminos except for methionine and cysteine. So it works out.
That's right. And the body stitches together all those aminos.
Exactly.
It finds the methionine left in the body, and you're all making your protein, tons of it.
Exactly. Yeah, and I've learned so much. Like, this thing with the diet, so many people have come down the road that I came, where we cut out the sugar, we cut out the carbs, we're eating protein like crazy because we thought it was fine. And then you come to learn that, whoa, that's totally the opposite. And then I learned a lot about protein. This has been such a journey for me, is just learning. I'm always learning. I think, you inspire me with all the research you do, and you're constantly researching. But I've always been that way myself. And anytime I stumbled upon something I didn't know, and that's how I found you. I was just researching. I was just looking for answers, and all of a sudden that one of the articles you wrote about cancer's addiction to methionine popped into my field of vision, and it caught my eye. And so that one article that you wrote has probably saved countless lives if it.
Hi, this is Joe Grumbine, and I wanted to share an update. The platform that hosts this podcast has made some changes to the subscriber settings, and we have a number of subscriber-only episodes that we offer to the supporters, and for a minimum of $3 a month, we can get you signed up. And if you're already signed up and you're having some kind of trouble locating these episodes in the other platforms, I would say maybe the best answer is to unsubscribe and then resubscribe. I'm sorry for the hassle. I don't have any way to make a change, but I'm very grateful for all the support. Thank you.
I hope so, Joe.
I think it did. I mean, and you've
Well,
written.
we got to get the word out.
Well, I know that that's what we're doing with these conversations. And I like to always, while we're going through this, I like to learn a little bit about you and your process and your history. You've got such a rich history. You've been at this for so long, and I always like to learn, like, how you go through discovery. Like, how many experiments have you documented while you're researching methionine?
Well, Joe, I started researching methionine in cancer in 1973.
Right.
So I can't count how many. We probably have, just on that area, a couple hundred publications at least, maybe more. I don't know.
All from different
just on that area. A lot. We went through some dry periods, when the injectable methionine caused some problems with the methionase, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Kill the monkey.
Monkeys. We lost a monkey. We got, that really depressed us.
Right.
10 years later, well, maybe 15 years later, Dr. Hahn and Dr. Kawaguchi found you could take methionase by mouth.
Right.
That started, that was the Renaissance.
So since you discovered that, like, when you're going through, like, right now, you spend your days working, consulting. How do you spend a normal day?
Okay, well, I help out Dr. Hahn. We're, a real tiny little organization. So I help Dr. Hahn. I check every vial to make sure it has enough methionase. Every single vial I check.
Okay.
And usually I do that in the evening, and then I finish up putting the labels on the vials in the morning, because I get tired of doing that stuff. Then I try to do some creative work in the morning, and I try to write or revise a different scientific paper every day if I can. Trying to get as many papers out there as possible. And then kind of toward the middle of the day, I kind of run down, I kind of doze off in the chair, And then as the afternoon proceeds, I've got to take all the methionase. I take methionase over to FedEx and get it all shipped out.
How long does the process to make the methionase?
Well, it's two big steps. The one step it is to ferment our special genetically engineered bacterium, which is a standard E. coli. We have tons of it in our gut, and this E. coli has been engineered to have the methionase gene, which comes from a bacteria in the soil, a really tough bug called Pseudomonas putida. So the first step is to ferment it. So you start out with a little culture on like Monday, and then on Tuesday, this is all done by Dr. Lee. On Tuesday, he has enough of the little culture to inoculate about a 9-liter culture, which is on a very fancy fermenter that controls the air, the oxygen, the agitation, the pH. It's very, very sophisticated. Temperature, with all these little lights flashing and curves.
Create the environment, though.
Yeah, it's real Star Wars. So that's an overnight culture. And I guess from that culture, we get on the order of 10 grams of methionase. And once it's purified. So Dr. Hahn now is purifying methionase once a month. So he gathers together 4 weeks of the product of the fermentation, where we centrifuge the bacteria. We call it making a cake.
Okay.
A blob of bacteria that have tons of methionase in it. Then he has to open the cell. Okay, I'm gonna have to plug in here a little bit, Joe, and my phone is getting warm.
No worries, I hear you.
This time of year. Okay, so then you have to kind of explode the cells open, and you go through some steps. One of which is heat. The methionase is very heat resistant. The rest of the proteins in the bacteria are not. They precipitate like when you boil an egg.
Okay.
But the methionase stays in solution, and then he precipitates it with what's called polyethylene glycol. You may know it as an antifreeze, but it's got a lot of uses in biochemistry. And then he puts it over a column which separates it from most of the other proteins by their charge. Every protein has a little bit different charge.
Got it.
Positive or negative. And you can see the methionase because it's brilliant yellow.
Oh, wow.
And the yellow comes from its so-called coenzyme or cofactor, vitamin B6, which is a cofactor for many enzymes in the body.
Got it.
And when you're swigging your methionase, you're swigging a little bit of vitamin B6 too. Make sure it keeps working. So that's pretty much it.
And how much does he generally generate in this 1 month purification?
Well, right now we're generating probably between 30 and 40 grams, and that's probably the order of about 100 patients.
And is that how many patients you're serving right now?
Yeah, about. So we can expand by the controller of the fermenter now is running one big vessel, a 10-liter vessel. We fill to about 9. So we'd like to save up a little money and get a second vessel.
Okay.
Probably 30-something K. But we have so many expenses. Electricity, because of all the stuff we have here, just electricity is $4,000 a month.
Wow.
It's a killer. Rent is 11,000 something. I mean, it's just
No,
we
I
have
hear
it's really tough just to break even, which is all we want to do is break even. So that's where we are. You know, we're pretty flat out, but we're trying to save up a little and get that second vessel. Then we'll be able to serve 200 a month.
Nice, nice. Well, I'm here to help you do that. As I can bring more people and you
Okay.
know, in these conversations, I'm meeting people. People are finding me, and
Okay. Well, you know, we're a 501c3 corp. Everything is tax deductible.
yeah, I hear you. And you know, it's funny. People think, oh, you know, the enzyme's expensive. It's $1,000 a month.
It probably costs a little more than that to make it.
I believe that. I have no problem paying it because I know you guys are the real deal, and I know
And I'm absolutely pro bono. I live off my Social Security.
I
Um,
had no doubt. I
so
I understand. Like you, I have such a deep respect for you and the work you're doing. I didn't
thank
need
you, Joe.
I didn't need to know those details, but I kind of assumed them. I just can the character that you have, the work that you're doing, and just your willingness to share. I was sharing the story about how I ran across you. I sent an email, and you sent
I
me an
still
email.
remember that email. You just signed it, Joe.
Yeah. And then you said, give me a call. And I called you and you picked up the phone. And every time I call you, you pick up that phone. And if you don't, you call me right back. And that
Sure.
tells me the kind of person you are. And I try to be that kind of person as well.
Joe, a little bit warning that my phone said getting hot. So
Okay.
if it'll automatically shut off with it'll just go boom.
Well, we'll go ahead and preemptively cut it down. We're down at about the 30-minute mark anyways. So Robert, it's always it's a pleasure to talk to you. I really just
Me too, Joe. And I'll
okay.
see you on Sunday.
Yes, you will. I'm back at it. I'm gonna have some company over, so I probably won't be able to be on the call for the whole call, but
That's okay.
I like joining you
Every
guys.
minute you're on the call, you're inspiring somebody.
That's what I'm here to do, and you inspire me. So thank you so much, and
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much too for
we'll see
everything.
you on Sunday.
Okay.
All right, this has been the Healthy Living Podcast, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us.
This has been another episode of the Healthy Living Podcast. We produce this show so that people can share their stories, people that have overcome obstacles, people that are undergoing obstacles. We're building a community of health-minded individuals. If you're interested in supporting the show, please leave a review on the platform you're listening to it on. If you're interested in becoming a guest, please send an email to itsjoegrumbine@gmail.com, or you can send a note into the notes section of the podcast. All right. Well, thank you for supporting this show, and we hope you've enjoyed it.